Okay, so this is combining lesson 1 and lesson 2 of chapter 6. And the reason for it is these are an easy concept to consider, and they go pretty quick. I'll say this again later, probably after the video is over, but because something is easy, or you might consider it easy, it's easy to make mistakes. All right? So for chapter 6, lessons 1 and 2, we are solving one-step adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division equations. The concept of the word equation means that there's an equal sign. When we were evaluating expressions, because there wasn't an equal sign, when we used the distributive property, we were evaluating it. It didn't have a question, so it wasn't asking anything. But if you had this term, inverse operations. Inverse operations. Inverse means like opposite. Inverse means opposite. So if I were to say, what is the opposite? Opposite of addition. What's the opposite of addition? Yep, Graham. Subtraction. Opposite of addition? Subtraction. And what's the opposite of subtraction? Anybody? Addition. So if you want to do addition, undo addition, you subtract. If you want to undo subtraction, you do addition. So there's the main concept of lesson 1. Yep. This is addition, this is subtraction, and this is addition. I have them in parentheses so you guys can see them better, so you don't think that I'm drawing plus arrow minus arrow plus. It's actually that I was talking about them. And how about this? What's the opposite of multiplication? Yep. Division. And this is going to be the only sign you're going to write division like that, with using the dot, the line and the 2 dots. Because that line and the 2 dot, you don't have to write this part. That line and the 2 dot actually is a representation of like x over y. The x is a dot. There's the fraction bar. The y is the dot. Do you guys know that? Yeah, now you do. I didn't think about that until I was a grown-up. I just want to be a Toys R Us kid. And what's the opposite of division? Yeah, multiplication. So the main concept of solving equations is we want to get the variable by itself. Now in the last chapter, we used x just about every single time. That's actually the only variable that I think was on the test. But for this one, we're going to be using all different sorts of letters. We're doing all different sorts of letters, so just it'll also help, let's put it that way. And it'll also help you differentiate one question from the other. So with this one here, number 1, we have r plus 6 equals -3. So if you didn't write that one down yet, please do so. And if you do write 3 and 4, make sure you leave a couple spaces of room. So we got to think, we want to get the r by itself so we can solve for r. So you have to ask yourself, what is happening to r that we have to undo? What's happening to r on the left side of the equal sign? Yeah. 6 is being added onto it. And from what we wrote above it, to undo 6 being added onto it, right below there, I'm going to write minus 6. So I have plus 6 minus 6. But there's an equal sign there. And in order for something to be equal, both sides have to get the same thing. Therefore, I'm going to subtract 6 from this side as well. You could almost consider this being its own. Don't write the yellow, or don't write the red. I'm just doing that for demonstrative reasons. You could almost look at that as being its own subtraction, and this one being its own subtraction. So I have 6. Oh, color was black. I have 6 minus 6, which is what? Yeah. 0. Is there anything being subtracted? Is there any r's that we have last of? It's still just r. So I have r plus 6 is equal to negative 3 minus 6 from chapter 3. You guys can use calculators with this. If I'm at negative 3 and I'm going further to the left on a number line 6 spaces, I have negative 9. This is the only example that I'm actually going to write that 0. So what I do is I have r equals negative 9. That's bad r. Bad r. R equals negative 9. And here's the thing about this. In your homework, it says to solve for the variable and check your work. There's a way that you can check this to make sure you didn't make any mistakes. And when we start doing more steps, this is just one step. When we start doing more steps, you're going to want to check your work because there's more room to make an error. So what I could do is, you don't have to write this one. We can write ours later. Yeah. Yes. Yep. So good. So you guys have seen this. I'm going to substitute, since we said that r is negative 9, negative 9 plus 6, and yes, that does come out to be negative 3. So we know that r equaling negative 9 is the correct answer. So you didn't have to write the green. We'll do that next time because we added a step in there a little bit for demonstrative reasons. Demonstrative. Now we have a subtraction. We have w minus 7 equals a positive 11. We need to look at it and say, what's being done to our variable that we need to undo? Wolf? Subtraction is being done to it, so we need to undo it with, addition. I'm not only just going to do addition, I'm going to add 7. Because of this equal sign here, I'm going to add 7 to both sides. W minus 7 plus 7 is just W. Equals 11 plus 7 is 18. Then I can check my answer. I'll just do it off to the side nice and small. 18 minus 7, yes, that is first grade 11. W equals 18. Let's do another addition problem. K, what's happening to it? It's being added by 3, the integer 3. So to undo that, I need to subtract 3 from both sides. Minus 3. Minus 3. So I just get K equals negative 9 minus 3. Yes. Close. But that would be negative 9 plus 3. So it's going to make the value of the negative more. Yeah. Or more negative. Negative 12. Negative 12. And where we wrote negative 3, that's the one step of the one-step equations. For number 4, you can see that the variable is on the right side of the equation. That can happen as well. So we have C is being subtracted by 6. To undo it, I'm going to add 6. But don't forget that for this equal sign here, so I need to add 6 to that side as well. I have negative 7 plus 6 is going to be negative 1. And that's equal to just C. And you can write it like this. I think I only did it once on the multiple choice. But it can be the same thing, because if I had negative 1 equals C, C equals negative 1. And to check my work, I can do C is negative 7 negative 1 minus 6, or if I want to do the additive inverse from chapter 3, plus negative 6. Yes, that does check out because negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. All right, one more subtraction, this time with a negative. Did I do the same one? Almost. So for number 5, I have 1 is being subtracted from P. In order to undo that 1, I have to add a 1. But because of the equal sign, I have to add 1 to this side as well. Yep. Yes, that little dash there, yeah, that's a negative 2. So negative 2 plus 1 from chapter 3 is negative 1. So negative 1 equals P. And I can check my work and do that. We can do that one mentally. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. So that checks out. So those 5 are the extent of lesson 1. Now lesson 2 is multiplication and division. So number 6, we have 6c. Now you don't have to write what I'm about to write, but whenever you see a 6c, that's the same thing as 6 times c is 6c. Okay, we did that last chapter. Just as a reminder that 6 times c is 6c. So I have 6 multiplied by c equals 18. Now some of you probably have the mental ability to automatically just know exactly what this is. Even before you would know how to do solving equations. Like, well, there can only be one thing. But we still are going to be having to show our work with the multiple step ones that we're going to be starting to do. So to undo multiplied by 6, what do we do? Divided by 6. And here's how I want you to write it. Divided by 6. Remember how I told you we're not going to use that division symbol? Okay? Because division is just a fraction anyway. Then I have 18 over 6. These 6's cross each other out, so I just have c. 18 divided by 6 is, anyone? 3. Because you're not dealing with integers, I think that lesson 2 is actually easier than lesson 1. It's less likely that you'll make those mistakes. The main thing about the difficulty of lesson 2 is going to come up with this number 7 here. So for number 7, we have 24 equals negative 8. That's negative 8x. 24 equals negative 8x. What's happening to that x is it's being multiplied by a negative 8. Being multiplied by a negative 8, so I have to divide by negative 8 to undo that. And because of the equal sign, I have to do it to 24 as well. But make sure you take that negative with you. Only positivity at the door. Oh. Thank you. So when I divide negative 8x by negative 8, negative 8's cross each other out, so it's just left with an x on this side. Now with this one, I have a positive being divided by a negative. So my quotient for that is going to be negative. Whenever you multiply a positive and a negative, you get negative. Whenever you multiply a negative times a negative, you get positive. Remember that one? Negative times negative, or negative divided by a negative, becomes positive. When you have a negative times a positive, negative. When you have a negative divided by a positive, just negative. Okay? If there's an odd number of negatives that you're dealing with, it's going to be negative. So I know that 24 divided by 8 is 3, but it's also a negative 3 because there's one negative. Now with this one here, we have a divided by 12 equals negative 3. So from what I just told you, when we're done with this one, is A going to be positive or negative? What's it going to be? It's going to be negative, exactly, because it's a positive 12. But our quotient, the answer to a division problem, is negative 3. So in order to undo being divided by 12, I need to multiply by 12. And I'm going to rewrite this so it doesn't get too jumbled up. But I have A over 12 times 12, or 12 over 1 could be another way to do that, equals negative 3 times 12. I put the parentheses there because that's another way to represent multiplication. The 12 on the A cancel each other out, so now I just have A. There we go, I'm writing an A correct. I could not draw an A yesterday, I must say, before I went and play. Outside the hay. Yes? Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, but it turned out okay. 3 times negative 12 is negative 36. We're looking 3. But since we can use our calculator, what I could do is I do 36 divided by 12, or negative 36 divided by 12, and you know that that's 3. All right, last one, and then you guys get to work on your homework. For this one, it's very similar, but I just put a negative in the denominator. I'm going to change the color so you can see the difference. Actually, I want you to do this one. Take a minute and do this one, please. All right, if you're still working, just go ahead and look up when you're done with that. So I have n being divided by a negative 10. To undo that, to get n by itself, because it wants to socially distance, you're going to multiply it by negative 10. Cancels out. Negative 4 times negative 10 is a positive 40. Because we're multiplying two negatives, so it's going to be positive. And I can check my work by doing 40 over negative 10. Is that negative 4? Sure is. And this concludes our broadcast day.